Watch out, it's a live mic.
This is Mark McNeese in New York City, and you're listening to another edition of the Live Mic Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is Mark, and it's been a little bit of a while. I took a break there for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons I'm back is that I no longer have an office job. And I had talked about that on LGBTSR, the website, and on podcasts before, how I was really looking forward to someday somehow being able to pursue my passions without having to stop them suddenly at 8 o'clock in the morning and get on a bus to go to my job. And that has happened. The office closed. I did not quit. But it's one of the topics I'm going to be talking to our guest today about. It's Dave Hughes from RetireFabulously.com, who has been on the podcast a number of times, and his columns were at LGBTSR. They're not temporarily, at least, and we're going to find out why. So, Dave, how are you?
I am super, Mark. Thanks for asking, to quote a line from South Park. But no, actually, I'm doing very well, and it's great to be talking to you again.
You too. It's been a long time, and we have so much. This is also a chance for us to kind of get caught up. We're friends on Facebook, but talking to somebody is always different from reading their status updates. Now, as I mentioned in my introduction, and you know from having talked to me, and also from seeing everything I put on Facebook, which is my life is pretty much an open book on there. But my job ended at the end of July. The New York City office was closed. The company did not shut down, but it's a very small trade organization with an office in Albany and an office in Manhattan. And the new CEO was based in Albany. So the board said, well, let's get rid of this New York City office and not pay this all this overhead and all these people anymore. There are only 5 of us, but they saw it as a huge money saver. And it worked out fine for me, because this way, as you know, I got severance, and I'm on unemployment. I don't want to stay on that. I can only be on it for 6 months, but I would just as soon not collect it at all if I can generate the income. But it's like a huge, huge life change that is allowing me both to be terrified. Not terrified because my partner, we're going to be fine. I don't have to worry about that. But still, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about how am I going to make money? What am I going to do? And at the same time, I'm able to get up and devote my entire day to projects and passions and doing things that I want to do with my life. So that was a very long introduction. What's your reaction?
Well, first of all, congratulations. It's just incredibly liberating. It's just a wonderful feeling to not have to go into work every day. And I know you've experienced that right from the start. You've been looking forward to it. It really is. And I'm in somewhat the same situation you are, in that, I've separated myself from the corporate life, and in one manner of speaking, I am retired, in that I was at my company long enough to officially qualify for retirement and get the relatively few retirement benefits they offer and so forth. So in title, I am retired. But I did make that move a few years earlier than I had planned, and I took their early retirement package, knowing that I would have to supplement my income in some ways. And so you and I, and a much larger body of people than you may realize, are sort of in this in-between land where we're no longer at our corporate jobs, but we aren't quite at the point where we just stop working altogether and have no real need to make any further income. And so I'm kind of in that zone too. And as you may know, or as people who are listening may know if they've listened to our earlier podcasts, I'm a wedding officiant, and that brings in anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month. I hope to make at least a little bit of money from my writing, and occasionally from being paid to be a musician. And, every so often I think about other things to do for money. I mean, the holiday season's coming up, and, maybe I'll get a seasonal job. And, so we're in this zone where we need to make some money, but we we're sort of semi-retired, or as I like to call it, and I know you like this word too, we're in our renaissance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I feel about it, and it's the same sort of situation. And my goal really is to support myself without having to go back into an office cubicle. So it's not, my ego's not involved. I think I certainly reached an age where I don't need a job to make me feel like I have value. My identity is not tied up in my job at all. But I am a writer and I generate royalties every month. But it's not enough, as you've been saying. And I've been applying for. I applied as a virtual assistant. We'll see what happens with that. And then also a seasonal. You mentioned seasonal. It's a customer service job, but it's working on the phone and computer at home for Harry's Shavers, and they're interviewing me next week. I don't know what's going to happen, but I really try to look at this, and I say this to other people too. View what's going on in your life as opportunities and not obstacles.
Oh, absolutely.
Because things can come your way if you pursue them and if you're open to them. And the last thing I'm going to do is start telling myself I'm too good to do this, or this is some kind of defeat. It's not a defeat at all. I just want to. I love not having to. I love being able to do what we're doing right now instead of having to schedule this after work or on the weekend or something like that. So I'll do whatever I need to do, and it's not retirement. That's why I like the word renaissance, because most people. Well, some people do, obviously, but there is official retirement, as you mentioned, from your job, or from if you're working for the government or the school system or something, or the police. You do have you really are retired, but you may still need to make money, as most of us do, especially in the economy today. But I'm not retired. I had a friend who was telling folks, "This is Mark, my friend Mark, and he's retired." And I said, "I'm a long way from being retired," you know.
Hmm. And to some extent, and one reason I sort of started using the word renaissance is that for some people, the word retirement carries some amount of baggage in that, well, we think that's what old people do,
Right.
and we're not old. I mean, we're still in our 50s, and in this day and age, you can easily live to 90 or whatever. We have 30 more years ahead of us, and one big thing is, even though I'm certainly very realistic about my age, I don't feel old at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so and my husband Jeff is even more, or he feels even more strongly about this than I do, that he just really isn't ready to call himself retired yet, and we don't need to be. And I think we can kind of be in this zone. And over half of the people who have left their full-time careers are doing something to earn money. So that's sort of becoming the new norm as well. We're no longer the exception. We're becoming the norm.
Yes, and on this resistance to the word retired, and I feel it myself. I have it myself, partly because I have the same concepts of what retirement is that we've had for such a long time. Well, if I'm retired, I'm not writing books. I'm not doing any of these. But I have run into the same thing with the word senior for the last 5 years, because my website is LGBTSR. Everybody calls it LGBT senior, and they make it all caps in this whole thing. But there's a lot of resistance to the word senior, and one of my missions that I've sort of relinquished now was to destigmatize the word senior and the word old. I don't mind the word old at all. But Jane Fonda was on a Oprah's a master class, and this was a couple years ago, and she said, "I'm old," and then she laughed, just this full-throated laugh, and I thought I like that, because when you're 75 year old, I mean, come on, I don't want to be older for the rest of my life, because that's just kind of, to me, that's a little bit of denial. But I don't but people don't like the word senior, and the website's called that, and I can't really change it at this point.
Well, that's interesting because, first of all, there's a quote that I like. I'm one of these people that sort of collect quotes as I go along, but it's old age will always be 15 years older than I am. But
yes.
But to get back to senior, I mean, I read a lot of other retirement or retirement transition type websites and articles, and I've noticed that same thing. There's a it's almost like senior is now a dirty word,
Yeah.
and the word that they're using instead is boomer or baby boomer, because we're right in the middle of that era when those people who were born between 1946 and 1964 are now reaching retirement, and the first boomers just hit 70 and all that. And so now the word they're using to describe people in our demographic is boomer, not senior. And again, I don't see senior as being a negative word, especially when it's immediately followed by the word discount.
Right,
But
which I like getting. I also
oh, absolutely.
And also, it was a branding thing for me, and I've explained that to a couple people because what they'll do, and I know I'm getting off track here, is like when I correspond with them, they'll write back or they'll mention the website and they'll put capital LGBT and then senior SR, and I said no, it's a branding thing. It's lowercase LGBT capital SR. I never really thought of it as LGBT senior and then all of this baggage around the word senior. It was a branding thing. I like the way it looks on the website, with the curse and the rainbow colors and all this stuff. And I also had thought, to me, senior meant just that I'm your, like if you're 35, I'm your senior, and then we have no problem respecting senior assistant, senior advisor, senior counselor, senior this, senior that, but we don't like to be called senior people.
Exactly. I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. I mean, senior is great when it's in a job title.
Yeah, yeah. Now I want to talk a little bit about changes in your sphere because I've been a cheerleader for you for ever since we met. It might be 3 years. I know it's been a while.
It's about that long.
And I've always told people, I love his columns, and I love thinking of my life as coming into its renaissance and all of this stuff. And you do write really fabulous columns. And now you're writing them for U.S. News and World Report. And let's talk. Can you talk about that?
Oh, sure. And first of all, and I hope I say this often enough and not too often, but thank you so much for your support and your encouragement and your promotion and all that. It has really meant a lot to me. But about a year and a half ago, I mean, it was January of 2015, I became aware of a section of the U.S. News and World Report website called On Retirement. And it's sort of hidden a couple layers down. I mean, if you go to the main U.S. News webpage, one of their major categories is money. If you go to money, then one of the subcategories under that is retirement. And then one of the subcategories under that is the On Retirement blog. And another writer whose work I was reading and who I subscribed to was writing for U.S. News. And I looked around at a few of the other writers in their stable, and I thought, I can contribute on this level. I think this would be a good avenue for me as well. So I contacted the editor and gave her a few writing samples and said, how do I go about being considered to write, for your blog? And I never heard a thing back. So I kind of thought, well, okay, not interested. One of many cold calls I'm sure she gets, So a year and a half later, it was July of this past year, suddenly out of the clear blue sky, I get an email, and she said, we have an opening on our team, and we'd love to have you write for us. Like, well, okay. So she sent me an agreement that I needed to electronically sign, and a few of their writing style guidelines and so forth. And so I'm writing for them. I write one column every week, and part of the agreement is that I can repost the column on my own website 4 days after it's published on U.S. News, but otherwise it has to be substantially unique content, which is why I can't turn around and have that content then appear on other websites as well. I have the authority to put it on mine. Now, my intention which I haven't followed through with yet very well, is to sometimes write additional columns just for my website that I don't submit to U.S. News. And for those cases, I will absolutely send them to you if you would like to publish them on LGBTSR.
Oh, sure.
And one of the reasons for that is this. When you write, and I'm sure you know this very well, when you write for somebody else, you have to write following their style guidelines and their requirements. And one of the ones that U.S. News puts forth that their writers must follow is they want everything written in either second or third person.
Wow.
Which either means I speak to the reader as you, or I may say, we or us or what have you, but I'm not supposed to really mention me. And that goes a little bit contrary to what I've learned from many other sources, and that is when you're writing blog type articles, you want to write them as if you're having a conversation, I and you, and share stories from your personal life and share examples and let the reader kind of know who you are a little bit so they get attached to your personality as well as what it is you have to say. So that element is kind of missing from the articles I'm now writing for U.S. News. And it's sort of a subtle difference because in many, 90% of the content is exactly the same. It's just that there's now no sharing of personal stories or that sort of thing. And so I still want to write some articles from that standpoint, and so I'll just put them on my own page. But in the meantime, writing for them has been a good experience. It's exposing me to a lot more potential readers. Mm-hmm. I average about one new subscriber to my website every day.
Wow.
So I'm getting more things. Slowly but surely, I'm ramping up the number of subscribers, so that's a good thing. So I plan to do it for the foreseeable future, and if it gets to the point where either I find the requirements, to be a little too constraining, or if the new subscribers plateaus off or something, maybe at some point I won't do it any longer, but I am certainly thrilled to have the opportunity now, and I plan to do it, certainly for the foreseeable future.
Well, I think it's awesome, and I don't want to get off track here, but sometime if you ever want to talk about what I started doing recently was I took one of my books, because I have like 6 mysteries out now, and the very first one, it's like I can give this away. It's okay. So mm-hmm. I now give that away to any subscriber. When you subscribe to my website, to LGBT Senior, or to my personal website, markmcneese.com, the welcome email now includes a link to both a PDF and a MOBI file, and you can just download them. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that, but you could maybe do a version of your book or a truncated.
Mm-hmm.
It's something to think about in the future, so that you're offering new subscribers something that is free and that they can go ahead and download and read on their devices. I mean, I think it's a good thing, a good way to go if you can do it.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. And what I have now as sort of my incentive for subscribing, or as I sometimes call it, my bribe to subscribe, is I put together a PDF that's maybe about 20 pages or so called the Ultimate Retirement Resource Guide.
Sure. Yeah.
And I collected some of the best resources that I have found around the web for retirement lifestyle planning. A few of them are places where you compare cost of living from one place to another, or places to go to find other information about other places to live. How to go about continuing to learn as you approach retirement, and all sorts of other things. But it's sort of I like to call it the best of the internet. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I currently use for my subscriber incentive. And it's funny, I haven't gotten too much feedback one way or the other as to how well people like it. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty super, but I may be the only one. But regarding my book, I actually have some exciting news there. 2 things, actually. One is that I've always thought that this book would be excellent for financial advisors to give to their clients.
Mm-hmm.
And about a month or so ago, I was contacted by a financial advisor in Great Britain who wanted to do exactly that. And so he placed a bulk order for 100 copies of my book.
Mm-hmm.
And I quoted him a special, lower price because he ordered 100. And so, suddenly I sold 100 books in one fell swoop. And then another fellow who I've known for 6 or 7 years now, who plays in one of the bands that I play in, he just retired from Arizona State University West, although he continues to do some work for them. And he says they have a lot of people who are getting ready to retire, and they're facing what he calls the retirement cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no idea what they're going to do with their time or their lives after they leave, and that sort of thing. And so he wants me to come in and do a workshop for them, which I'm thrilled to do, because when I first started this journey, I really was looking for opportunities to go out and do workshops for employers, whether they be corporate America or academia or government life or what have you. But I was looking for opportunities to go out and do workshops because I am also good at presentations. And so we're currently working on scheduling that. And he's already bulk purchased about 20 copies of my book to give to some of the other people on the committee that's sort of deciding to do that. And he said initial response has been very positive. And I said, also, if I may suggest, buy copies of the book for all the attendees at the workshop and give them to the way out the door. So a couple things are happening in that regard that are really exciting. And gee, I'm only 3 years into this now, and finally things are starting to happen. So I think that's a testament to just keeping at things and persistence, and sooner or later things pay off.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't give up, and you continue to inspire me. The weekly column thing, I've been wanting to write a weekly column for a long, long time, but it's not easy. And this one is more like a Dave Barry humor kind of column. But I'm going to try it, and then eventually, when I've got 30 or 40 of them, I'm going to do a mass outreach to magazines, and not specifically gay, because I was looking online today, I'm probably taking up too much time, but I noticed that there's still not a lot of websites out there for the older LGBT audience that are not service oriented. My site is really about columns and interviews and featured books and all of that stuff. That's what I wanted, and I was able to achieve that. But most of what I find out there is about where to go when you need help with this, that, or the other thing. I'm not seeing a lot of. I don't see a lot out there that are really going to welcome a humor column. So I'm probably really going to have to think in terms of just sites for older people, sites for boomers and seniors, and not worry about the fact that they might say he's writing about his husband. I don't think they're going to care. At least the ones that are going to publish me are not going to care. So that's a focus, and you're an inspiration there, because writing a weekly column is not easy.
No, it isn't, but on the other hand, basically, believe it or not, I'm really kind of a lazy person, and I like being undisciplined. And one of the things I like about my post-corporate life is I can be really undisciplined if I want, but that doesn't work very well for trying to maintain a website and write regularly and things like that. And so one thing that this U.S. News gig has forced me to do is stick to a schedule of weekly writing, and that's been good for me. And I need to do that. But that idea of the humor column, I think, is going to be really great, and I look forward to reading them. And I agree with you that I think that there isn't necessarily I hate to say this, but there isn't really that much of a gay audience, or at least one that's easy to reach. I mean, obviously there's gay people everywhere, but
yeah.
What I have found, I mean, when I originally started RetireFabulously, I wanted to focus entirely on a gay audience. And then I realized, that straight people were subscribing in equal numbers to the gay people. And I also came to realize that, 90% of retirement lifestyle topics are the same for gay people or straight people.
Right.
There's really only a small amount of things that are unique to us. And I think the same can be said for humor. Yes, there's some humor that really will get and is about our experience of life, but there's a lot of other humor that's the same for all of us. And when I approached U.S. News, I said, when we were going back and forth about writing for them, I said, do you want me to occasionally write about LGBT-related retirement issues, or do you think that's just not going to be of interest to your audience? And she said, no, write about it. And so I need to come up with one because I haven't yet. But I'm going to put that out there and see how that goes.
Right, and it's my focus is more. It's actually, it says it's called One Thing or Another: A Lighthearted Look at Life, Aging, and the Absurdities of It All, because that's really what it's about. And there was a very successful, famous columnist not long ago. I think he retired, but he used to write about his partner. So it has more to do with my own internalized homophobia. Now we're coming up on a half an hour. So what would you like to close with? What else would you want to put out there as we wrap it up?
Well, I think we've probably covered most of the topics that I thought we would talk about. Both your. Well, actually, no. Let me ask you one more question. Maybe we can close with this. I'll also remind your listeners that my website is RetireFabulously.com. And if you subscribe, you get the ultimate retirement resource guide. So there. But anyway, so I want to ask you, I know you have looked forward to the day for a long time when you could kiss your cubicle goodbye and have total control over your life, even when that continues to include having to earn money. How has the actual experience worked out compared to how you thought it would be?
Oh, it's everything I thought it would be. I love it. And what's interesting is that I thought that I would suddenly be able to sleep till 6 o'clock, which to me would be heaven. I've been getting up by 5 o'clock for so long because I had to do everything that I do, write my novels, the website, everything had to be done before 8 o'clock so I could go to work. I'm still getting up at 5. Maybe I will. Maybe that's just who I am now. I don't know. But I'm so busy, and you know this, and everybody who makes this transition, not everybody, because some people do end up sort of lost and floundering, but I don't know how I got all this done. I was at my desk at 5:30 this morning. I stopped at 11 and walked, a little bit, and now I'm back here. So I spend 5, 6, 7 hours a day as it is now in this life, and I love it. I love the freedom and the flexibility.
Oh yeah, I'm busier now than it seems anyway, like I'm busier now than I was when I worked. I've got this big to-do list in front of me and all these projects going, and like I say, I wonder, of course I didn't do as much of this while I worked, but I wonder how I ever got through working. I mean, I'm busier than ever now, but I like it this way.
Oh yes, and we're moving out. You know this because we have a house and we're moving. We're gonna, and that's like, oh my God, that's what a project. But we'll talk about that offline or the next time. That can be our topic the next time. Dave, thank you for coming on. I know it's been a while. I haven't done these in a while either, but it's really good to be back, and it's really good to come back with you as my guest. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, it has been a pleasure for me too. And let's do this again in a month or two.
We absolutely will. Okay.
Bye.